You haven't ended chaos, you are the chaos.
Prime Minister, less than a week away from a budget where all the leaks suggest you're going to have to raise taxes and cut public spending, why are you prioritising a new government handout, free crumpets for kids?
Well, these breakfast clubs are hugely important for children. We're here at St Anne's in Reading. This has been a pilot school, and you can see the impact it has on children. They get something to eat in the morning, which wouldn't necessarily otherwise be the case, which sets them up. They do activity in breakfast club, which means that they're ready to learn for first lesson in a different way. So hugely important for children, giving them a much better chance to get on and to life. Really important for parents as carers as well, because they can drop children off and get back to work if that's what they want to do, and it saves them several £100s. And if there's one issue across the country which is absolutely the top issue, it's the cost of living. So every step we can take to help people with the cost of living is a really important step by this government.
Do you think Nigel Farage is racist? We've had this conversation and you wouldn't go there, will you now?
Well, I think that what he should do when he can see what to me is clear racism, a fellow MP saying, I'm fed up with black and Asian faces on my television. That to me is racism. I suspect it is for most people watching this, but he hasn't got the spine to call it out. He's got plenty to say about plenty of things, but when it comes to the fundamentals, he can't call it out. And now he needs to deal with this pro-Russian bribery. It's not just a serious criminal offence, it undermines our country. It's serious. The first duty of a Prime Minister, of a leader, is to keep our country safe. So he needs to launch that investigation.
Can I ask you about integrity? You made a promise when you came into Downing Street that you would restore respect to politics. Can you honestly say, hand on heart, to the British public that your government has done that?
Yes, and I'll tell you for why. When I came in, I strengthened the ministerial code. I gave more powers to the independent advisor. And in every case where there's been any issue, my ministers have referred themselves to the independent advisor and followed the advice.
You've been in trouble with that independent advisor yourself. You've had to talk about the fact you said you were going to recuse yourself from an appointment and you didn't. You've had to apologise over freebie scandals. Honestly, do you really think that your government has had more integrity than the last?
Well, as I say, I personally strengthened the ministerial code. I gave more powers to the independent advisor. And the difference now is that ministers know that if there's any issue, they must refer themselves in to the
You don't think you need to be straight with people that you haven't restored the politics?
If you remember what happened before, there was no accepting of responsibility by the then Prime Minister or the government.
So you're just slightly less sleazy than the last government?
No, it's important we're accountable, and we are accountable, and that's why I strengthened the code.
Prime Minister, is it important that politicians stick to their word?
Yes, it is important that politicians stick to their word. They have to make decisions against a difficult backdrop, and we've obviously got big decisions to make in the budget that's coming in just a few days' time.
So I've got your manifesto here. Will you keep your word not to increase taxes on working people? It's on page 21 in this document.
Well, we've made that commitment, and obviously we'll lay out our plans at the budget, which is just a few days away now, so you'll be able to see exactly what decisions we've made. Now, obviously, we make those decisions against a very difficult backdrop. We had the 2008 crash, where people haven't felt much better off since then. We then had austerity for a number of years, which destroyed our public services. We then had a botched Brexit deal, which damaged our economy, and then then COVID and the conflict in Ukraine. But we will make. It's very important that we take the right decisions for our country. I'm optimistic about the future of this country. I absolutely believe that this can be much better on living standards, on our public services, and on how people feel.
You told me a year ago, days before the 2024 budget in Chobham, you said we made an absolute commitment that income tax wouldn't go up, national insurance wouldn't go up, their VAT, as in working people, wouldn't go up. I said that in the campaign, we're going to keep those promises. Will you make that commitment again today?
Well, Beth, we're going to set this out in just a few days.
You won't, will you?
Well,
you said that just a few days before the last budget.
You know
you did make the commitment before the last budget.
You know that the decisions will be made and set out in full in just a few days' time.
You're not going to...
You'll be able to...
Will you make the commitment again now? You won't, will you?
You will be able to hold me to account then when those principles are set, when those decisions are set out. But
you won't rule out tax rises on working people.
The principles will be fairness, and the three things that I'm bearing down above all else is protecting our public services, the NHS, cutting our debt, which is vitally important, and dealing with the cost of living
Prime
crisis.
Minister,
Because for most people watching this, the cost of living will be their number one issue, and that's why it needs to be the number one priority of the
cost
government.
of living. You won't rule out tax rises. You won't repeat your commitment not to raise taxes on working people. Freezing tax thresholds beyond 2028.
All I've said is we will set out our plans
it's going to hurt
on Wednesday.
working people, isn't it? Freezing tax thresholds.
Well, we're going to set out our plans on Wednesday. You will see them set out in full, and then you'll absolutely be rightly holding me to account for the decisions that we've made.
Your Chancellor said in last year's budget, freezing the thresholds will hurt working people. She's right, isn't she? I'm not asking you about the budget, I'm just asking you if it would hurt working people.
We are going to set out our decisions. We will have absolutely in mind that the cost of living is the number one issue for people across the country. And then we will make during the election, fully set out.
During the election, you promised not to raise taxes on working people. You put it in your manifesto.
We did.
Before the budget last year in Chogham, I asked you this. You recommitted to that. I just want to say on record now, you are not recommitting to that today, are you?
Well, it's only a matter of days now to the budget.
Okay.
We will set out our plans in that budget. I've set out what the principles are, and I can tell you, politics for me is about who do you have in your mind's eye.
It's working people, and you're going to put their taxes up.
I have in my mind's eye people who are struggling with cost of living, who can't necessarily make ends meet. And that's political. It's also personal. When I was growing up, we couldn't always make ends meet. We couldn't always pay our bills. I know what it feels like to be in your kitchen around the table wondering which bills you're not going to be able to pay this month. And so having who you have in your mind's eye is really important. That's what I've got in my mind's eye as we go into this budget.
Okay. PM, you promised to end the chaos when you were elected, but since the summer we've had winter fuel U-turn, welfare U-turn, Rayner's resignation, Mandelson's sacking, Andy Burnham's leadership drama, the Wes Street in Number 10 showdown, pitch rolling in income tax rises only to U-turn. You haven't ended chaos, you are the chaos.
Look, every minute that we're not talking about the cost of living is a wasted minute.
But this is chaos.
But at the same time, we have delivered free childcare for children between 9 months and 4 years. That's a game changer for children when they're in their education, and for parents.
Do you acknowledge
only yesterday we were rolling out the extension of free breakfast clubs. We're freezing prescription charges. We're maintaining the cap on bus fares.
So none of the stuff that I've just mentioned, that you're just going to gloss over that and not acknowledge that this is chaotic.
No, I'm not. But I'm really conscious of the fact that what the majority of people want to know is, if my number one issue is paying the bills and making sure I can make ends meet, what are you doing about that? And that's why it's important for me to say, these are the measures we're taking.
Are you let me put it another way. Are you disappointed about what's been going on in your Downing Street since September?
I think that every minute that we're not bearing down on cost of living is a wasted minute.
As you're not a violent person, I'm not, no. I wish I was. I'm not brave enough. Sometimes I think, I watch a lot of stuff.
Bills will come down by up to £300.
We can cut bills by an average of £300 a year, every year, right the way as far as you can see into the future.
Get people's bills £300 a year lower.
That ought to bring down the household bills by about £400 for each bill, but that's a permanent drop.
That's what we said in the election. We continue to hold to that.
When Mum lived in the UK years back, she and her foreign friend once went to a local job centre to apply for 2 jobs they were not qualified for. So they went through a whole interview despite not being qualified. What's your worst job interview? I haven't had many, I've only had a couple. The one I remember, well, there was one where I went with my friend that I put in the office, it was the first scene in the office. I went along with my mate, and we were 17. It was the school holidays. We went along to one of those services that put you in offices and factories, you know. And the guy had a ponytail, and he said, "I don't give shitty jobs. If 2 guys come to me, they're right there." And he called his mate up, and he went, "Yeah, of course they're 18." Like that. And I remembered that, because I remember thinking, he's trying to get us to trust him, but the first thing he did was lie. to his friend. And I remembered that, and I thought, you know, and that was, yeah, 20 years previous.
There's a few billion pounds of overspend. This is not a £22 billion black hole. That's complete nonsense. It was created by Rachel Reeves, signing off a deal with the unions at face value without any productivity improvements. I've never seen any government in recent decades do that. That's what she did. And then, of course, because of that tax spend doom loop she's in, and because of this constant speculation about what's ahead, businesses stopped investing, which means the economy stops growing. That's where we are. Business confidence has completely crashed under Rachel Reeves. So the things that actually generate the money for public spending have completely disappeared.
So it's all fine, no black hole at all when the Conservatives less power.
Listen, we've been through a difficult time. But wait, let me tell you where we were July last year, July 2024, when they took over. Business confidence, according to the Institute of Directors, was +5. To date is -73. That's the steepest fall on record. It's the lowest recording on record. Actually, it's not the lowest. It was -74, which is last month. That's the lowest ever. That's what she's done to business confidence. And it's business confidence and investment that drives growth in our economy.
As a new form of the virus is now rapidly spreading across Africa.
I had a bit of a incident last night. So I'm worried about this, right? I'm worried, right? I'm a bit of a worrier anyway. And I'm a hypochondriac. I went to the doctors once. I had an upset stomach. She said, well, what's the matter? I said, oh, upset stomach. She went, right, so have you changed any of your habit? I said, so yeah, I started having sort of, you know, smoothies with fibre in. She went, would be that then, wouldn't it? I went, right, good. So yeah, went to the doctor. I said, is it bowel cancer? She said, no. I went, right. And then she said, when you get a sore throat, do you think that's throat cancer? Right? I think she thought I'd laugh. I went, yes. And she went, okay, okay, you can leave now. That's what I want a doctor. I want a doctor to make me feel because I went along. Do you know what I mean? I want to go along. I don't want them. I don't ever want a doctor to say to me, well, you were right to come in because, whew. So, anyway, so last night, I went to bed, I went to stay, I don't feel very well, right? She went, what's the matter? I said, oh no, I just feel ill, sort of upset, stomach. And I went, it's coronavirus. She went, right. I said, so, I feel hot. So she went and got a thermometer. She got out of bed, right? Got a thermometer, tested me. She went, well, no, if anything, it's low, if anything. It's like, I went, right. I said, I just feel a bit hot. I said, I've got a blocked up nose. She went, well, that's not coronavirus. I went, right, all right, doctor, right? And I went, oh, I feel sort of out of breath. I was really nervous. You're winding yourself up, right? And I went, I sort of sore throat. So you've always got a sore throat because you don't drink enough liquid and you're always dehydrated. So I went all right anyway. I don't feel so. I took a nighttime Beecham's, right, and went to sleep. That must have mixed with the alcohol because I woke up screaming from a nightmare at about 3 o'clock, scared Jane because I thought an earplug was a spider. And so I woke up this morning. She went, how do you feel? I went, yeah, fine. My life often is, I have those incidents now and again. And I always remember a line in Christmas Carol when they go, and Tiny Tim, who did not, and I say that, when I get up, I go, who did not? Oh dear. So business as usual, really. I'm not a brave man. I always think the worst. So then, but it's not the worst, I'm happy. I think, what a lovely day. I didn't... Oh.
The World Health Organization tonight is declaring Mpox, formerly known as a global public health.
Jane laughed at me because I found just a sports one, not a illegal one, a sports one. But you know, if people come for the toilet rolls, they don't know it's got a little blunt thing on the end. I think when I woke up screaming, I think I shouted, "Ah, spider!" This is like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Are there any psychiatrists watching? I've never been to a psychiatrist or a therapist. Maybe I should. Maybe I shouldn't just film it. Maybe I'd say... I'd worry that I'd say things for a laugh that I couldn't take back. Like I'd say something to wind them up, and then they'd call the authorities and go, "He's a proper psychopath. You've got to put him away before he hurts people." Because I can't resist it. I can't resist. If I knew what would worry a psychiatrist, I'd say it for a laugh. Oh dear. Anyway, cheers. Make the most of it. Keep your pecker up. What? Careless talk. What is it? Cost lives. Walls have ears. Look, careful. There's a Nazi. Turn that light out. Dig for victory. Don't be bothered. See you later.
Last year, China made $1 trillion off trade with the United States. That's not right.
That when the stock market of the United States loses $14 billion worth of wealth in just 2 days of trading.
Okay, say that one more time, but this time in American.
All right.
Oh, happy 4th of July, America. Ready to fire up the grill and celebrate our victory over the Brits? Well, I'm not. Because despite that incredibly convincing American accent, I'm one of those Brits. Now, I've acted in film and TV for years, but my greatest performance is acting like I don't care that every summer you gobble down tube sausages and celebrate kicking our arses, or butts, as you say, incorrectly. Do you really still have to celebrate your emancipation from us? I mean, that's like your girlfriend breaking up with you and then celebrating with fireworks. Every year. For 300 years. It gets my goat. But what really gets my goat is imagining how great America would be if we were still in charge. Oh, America, if we'd won the war, you'd have better comedy, news, TV programs, and way better rude words. Oh, I'm talking fanny, trollop, minger, tar, minge bag, bleeding, sodding, blooming, cocked up, get stuffed, and of course wanker. Imagine how sophisticated you'd sound when you're insulting someone. Oi, Brad, your wife's a slag! Now piss off, you wanker! See how classy that sounded? With our accents and your American self-confidence, you'd be unstoppable. Yeah, you'd have to pay a few more taxes, but you can't put a price on that. Great Britain, too, would be the greatest country on earth. Your lawyers would all wear powdered wigs, so criminals really respect them, and you'd have all the mushy peas you can stuff down your bloody great gobs. Oh, and if you get sick, you don't need to worry about medical insurance, because with the National Health Service, a doctor will see you for free in about 2 years. Plus, your taxes would be spent on things you really need, like a royal family who do the tough jobs no one else wants to do, like being driven around in a really nice car while waving. You'll want to eat some apple pie, then shoot some hoops and have a hoedown? Bollocks.
because we have a big job to do. No other president would have done what I did. No other president. I know the presidents, they wouldn't have done it.
And when the virus of what you have released into the atmosphere spreads to all the stock markets of the world and all the shareholders, pension funds, and all the others who depend on rising stock markets are losing untold, uncountable hundreds of billions in wealth, you've probably not made the wisest decision. And when it's predicated upon forcing people to buy American goods, you run up against an immediate problem. What is it exactly I'm supposed to buy from the United States? I buy Netflix, I'll grant you that. I buy internet services, possibly, although my telephone was made in China. I can think of virtually nothing that I want to buy from the United States.
Are you speaking English? Because I've got no idea what you're saying.
Not fashion, thank you very much. I go Italian, me and Judge Napolitano. Not food, chlorinated chicken doesn't make my taste buds salivate. Not cars, once upon a time, yes, in the 1950s, in the 1960s, before it became uneconomic to do so. I'd have probably thanked you for a Ford Mustang. I probably would have thanked you for a Buick or a Cadillac. But none of these things are practical any longer. And if you're offering me a Ford as opposed to a Mercedes or as opposed to a Volvo, I'm afraid I'm spoiled for choice on this side of the Atlantic. Trump seems to believe that the reason there are virtually no American cars on European streets is because of tariffs. But it isn't because of tariffs. It is that you have gutted your entire country of its industrial strength. Not you personally, though you didn't do as much about it in your first term as you claimed you were going to do. But American rulers, for a century, have been deindustrializing their country. And that deindustrialization is not the fault of the countries to which your capitalists exported their productive plant, machinery, and operations. Let me give you a very obvious example. I'm wearing black Levi 501s. That's no surprise because I do that every day. Not the same pair, but every day. Even in Parliament. I never entered Parliament without black Levi 501s. Scott Ritter, my good friend, leapt into the fray to say, we make Levi's. But you don't, Scott. I had to educate Scott. Levi's stopped producing their product in America in 2005. And only their high-end products continued to be made there until 2020. Now, Levi's produces nothing in America. So you see, even the iconic American brands are all produced elsewhere. And they're not coming back because you can get somebody in Indonesia or in Thailand or in Vietnam to sit at an assembly line and sew pairs of Levi's for very low wages. You will not get the American workforce to do that. That is just a matter of economic fact.
Do we agree, Prime Minister, that nobody should be left feeling, as Cat Smith has just described, that they would be better off dying between now and next April?
No, of course. But governments have to bring about sensible reform.
I think Starmer's one of the worst prime ministers we've ever had, and he's only been with us 81 days. But look what he's done in those 81 days. He's allowed the Chancellor to go ahead with a scheme where 4,000 pensioners could freeze to death this winter, and those are Labour figures, by the way, not Tory figures, OK. He's introduced a raft of policies like energy, which could make us dependent on overseas energy ad infinitum, so dictators around the world will control what we have in this country. Never mind the sleaze. I mean, goodness gracious, he stood up in the Commons once, looked across the box at Boris Johnson and said, sleaze, sleaze, sleaze. There's never been a sleazier Prime Minister. Never been a sleazier Prime Minister.
Then Keir Starmer.
Never.
So what makes you call him sleazy? Sleazy's an interesting word for you to use.
Well, if you're walking around in other people's suits to try and improve your image, I saw one...
Well, it's his suit, it's just paid for by somebody else.
I reckon he was a useless lawyer, a boring, useless public sector lawyer. Boring, useless public sector lawyer.
A lot of public interest cases, and then he served
boring.
Ireland, then he was director of public prosecution. Where he changed the approach, so they started prosecuting grooming gangs.
Adenoidal voice, incapable of thinking on his feet.
He is actually. I think in there is a decent man, quite amused,
Really?
Wry sense of humour.
I don't think Lou Haig thinks so, the Transport Secretary sacked. I don't think Andy Rayner, the former Deputy Prime Minister, thinks he's decent. I think they think he's treacherous, disloyal, doesn't believe in anything, doesn't believe in anybody, throws people under a bus because he's useful.
Do you think society could survive if everyone was kind, generous and thoughtful? Or do we need ruthless bastards to drive industry and make the difficult decisions? I don't know. I don't think you have to not be kind and generous and thoughtful to make difficult decisions, do you? You know, it's kind to decide to have your pet put down. It's a terrible decision, but it's kind. It's a kind decision. So I don't think those two are in conflict. But I know exactly what you mean. I think naturally we probably are kind and generous and nurturing, but we developed our intelligence was sort of relied a bit on violence because we didn't have the tools, did we, to defend ourselves. So we had to come up with cunning, evil fucking ways to catch stuff and eat it. So, but I think naturally we probably are generous and nurturing too, you know. We had to be really kind and generous and nurturing because we didn't have the tools and we had to look after our young in a scary place. But I mean, I don't know about politics. I think politicians have proved that it's nothing to do with doing what's right for most people now. Even if they start off going into it with good intentions, all the compromises, all the worries about trying to please everyone, they soon start, you know, not doing a great job. And now a lot of them have proved that they're blatant. They're in it for themselves. So I don't know. I think the utopia you're talking about probably is possible, but yeah, I think there's always a few bad eggs, isn't there? Genius, Rick. What do you think about the world? There's always a few bad eggs, isn't there? Brilliant.
Do we agree, Prime Minister, that nobody should be left feeling, as Cat Smith has just described, that they would be better off dying between now and next April?
No, of course. But governments have to bring about sensible reform and take
sensible
measures
reform, absolutely.
But things like anti-forestalling clause, they are not unique to this situation. But on a human level, the answer to your question is, of course, not.
But last year, you told me that this was a policy that was just aimed at revenue raising, that it wasn't targeted at anybody in particular. We've now seen the anti-forestalling clause, and we know from Treasury's own figures that 75% of the £500 million that is expected to be raised from this will come from farmers who die over the age of 75. So, is it not the case that actually this is a targeted measure, and it is targeted at, and it will affect those who are elderly, suffering from terminal illnesses over 75, and it doesn't matter if it's one farmer or 1,000 farmers. Surely you cannot be comfortable with that.
Let me just address the point that it's not targeted. It's not targeted at individuals.
Well, it was what you said last year.
It's not targeted, as I said last year. It's an economic reform which we took in the budget before last. Not targeted. It is to adjust the rate at which inheritance tax is, the fact that it's paid, the rate at which it's paid, and the period over which it is paid. But it's not targeted against individuals. I'm not arguing with you that there are therefore going to be individuals affected, as there are with any change in any tax regime. But there's a difference between changing the tax regime and targeting a group of individuals. This is about changing the tax regime.
The anti-forestalling clause that we've spoken about traps farmers into the new rules. It doesn't allow them the same opportunities that other taxpayers will have to use tax planning to manage their affairs in a sensible way that will allow the succession of family farms in this country.
That doesn't make it targeted. It is a necessary consequence of the decisions that we've taken. But I can assure you, as you would expect, the President of the NFU has raised this issue with me on more than one occasion.
Not just the President of the NFU.
Well, I appreciate that.
You've heard it from Cat Smith, you've heard it from my Select Committee, you've heard it from the Welsh Affairs Select Committee, you've heard it from the Northern Ireland Affairs Committee. These are all select committees, incidentally, that have majorities from the Labour Party, and they have all produced unanimous reports calling for this to be paused and rethought. You don't have to listen to me. You don't even have to listen to the farmers out there. You don't have to listen to the President of the NFU. But why do you not listen to your own party colleagues?
I do listen to party colleagues all the time.
And then do what you're going to do anyway.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carmichael.
The thing, I mean, they allowed him to evade questions like he does in Prime Minister's questions. Because what's interesting is, as the liaison committee, he admitted that jury trials won't actually help to solve the backlog. So he's ditching 800 years of our judiciary system and our freedoms just for, nothing. And he's also admitted that he knows of people who are terminally ill who may end up taking their life before the farm taxes actually come into place. So again, that wasn't in the manifesto, and they should be grilling him about it because it's broken promises that he wasn't actually promised in the manifesto, that he has no mandate to actually implement. And again, with the illegal migration, Labour MPs, they celebrated 28 days of no boats coming in prematurely, because after that we had 700 come in, and that's taken us over 40,000 legal migrants that came into the UK. So again, it's like we're having to rely on bad weather to keep us safe at border control. So where is our tax money actually going? Because it's appalling.
And Chris Rose, when you look at the makeup of the examiners today, 8 out of 12 from the Labour Party, 3 from the Conservatives, only 1 Liberal Democrat, and of course nobody from Reform UK. Does it sort of cast a sort of shadow of doubt over the entire point of these things? I mean, it's like 8 of your mates, giving you an end-of-year review. Why bother?
That's the thing. I mean, we know that he's going to go soft with them. Keir Starmer doesn't like scrutiny. He even left the liaison committee early as well, because when he's held up to scrutiny, he doesn't like it at all. He doesn't like his pre-prepared questions taking another route. He can't think quick on his feet. I mean, Kenny Badenoch is actually running rings around him at Prime Minister's questions now as well. Even with journalists who used to support him, during the election last year, now that they're scrutinising him more, you can see the anger and his short temper coming out of him a bit. So he doesn't like it. So that's why they've picked, easy questions from, 8 of his mates instead of an actual grilling that he fully deserved. Looking at his popularity ratings, he really needs to be grilled, particularly by even his own MPs, because things aren't looking well for them at all, according to the polling. They're currently in 3rd place, 4th place, pushing down. And as you heard, as Reform now have more party members than Labour as well, because they've all drifted off to Green Party, whatever SAC is offering them. And, things aren't looking well, so I don't know why he doesn't want more scrutiny, because after the next local elections in May, I think they may move to actually get rid of him as leader, and certainly the Chancellor as well. So going ahead in easy mode is just bringing them, it's just delusional.
Defend yourself. Defend your human rights. They can't put you in jail for saying naughty words. Would you say the word on camera?
No.
Why?
Because
you don't want to get arrested, do you?
Doesn't want to be arrested.
Because it's so harmful to people?
No.
Is it like bashing? What's wrong with that?
Would you use that word? Yeah.
I just did.
Yeah, but would you? Okay, but why?
And I'm using it because you're not allowed to, because you're...
I'm allowed to.
Go ahead.
I don't want to.
Say, I love gay people.
I'm allowed to. I just choose not to.
We're getting into it now because there are loads of caveat already to free speech already. There are loads, and I agree with them all. Right. I think I agree with every single one of them. As I said, from libel to slander to food additives, even to watershed and private places and concern. I agree with them all. But the one I don't agree with is someone's right to not hear something they don't like. That's what we can't do. I say that joke is unpleasant. Well, it might be, but it's that thing. You shouldn't pave the jungle. You should put on better boot. You can walk away. You can turn it off. The best form of censorship is your right not to listen. And people get confused what freedom of speech is. They think that freedom of speech is their right to be heard and understood and taken seriously. It's none of that. It's a very delicate thing, but it is written. There are rules, and all you have to do is look them up, and then you'll know that.
She's being arrested and taken to jail for praying outside the abortion clinic. Watch this.
Before I ask you any questions about what's going on today, I have to caution you, which is just your rights, which is you do not have to say anything. It may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioning something that you later on in court. Anything you say may be given evidence. What are you here for today?
Physically, I'm just standing here.
Okay. Why here of all places? I know you don't live nearby.
But this is an abortion centre.
Okay. That's why you're stood. Is you standing here part of the protest?
No. I'm not protesting.
Are you praying?
I might be praying in my head out loud.
So I'll ask you once more, will you voluntarily come with us now to the police station for me to ask you some questions about today and other days where there are allegations that you've broken public spaces protection?
If I've got a choice, then no.
Okay, well then you're under arrest on suspicion of failing to comply with the public spaces protection order.
So what is that? It's hard to argue that if your government is arresting people for praying, that you're watching a political phenomenon. Because, of course, praying is not simply a nonviolent act. It's not even a physical act. It can't possibly, at least in secular terms, affect outcomes or harm anyone. Praying for people can never be a crime, but it is a crime in Great Britain. Literally a crime. And the woman you saw is not the only person who's been arrested for doing it. So clearly we're watching a spiritual phenomenon here. I mean, there's sort of no arguing it once you see things like that. Why aren't you more panicked that thousands of people, by their own admission, the admission of the British government, are arrested every year for saying words, not threats, words.
I am. I've expressed
So why doesn't someone try to overthrow the government? I don't understand. How can they treat you like slaves if
they
you put
carry
up
on
with it?
down that road?
Well, they are carrying it on. It's thousands a year, and it's getting more.
Then they will be voted out of office.
Voted
I guarantee
out?
it. Yes. That's how
Is that what Winston Churchill would say? I think Winston Churchill said, even if a strong man tries to take Poland, a country we've got nothing to do with, it's not even close to here, we're going to risk the lives of our citizens to liberate Poland.
It is a win for free speech, particularly as the judge said. His comments were, in the judge's words, unnecessary, maybe, offensive, but that doesn't mean he's not allowed to say them. It wasn't harassment, and that is what we're concerned about, that even though people might say unpleasant things, the right to freedom of speech is pointless if it doesn't allow you to be offensive. And so, yes, I can completely get why Graham is so happy, and we're so happy for him at the Free Speech Union. This can be quite confusing because that this trial happened around the same time as when Graham was arrested by 5 armed police officers at Heathrow for completely different posts. The state seems to have a pattern of working with trans activists. When Sophia Brooks reported Graham to the police for criminal damage and harassment, the CPS took his side straight away, it seems, as they did with the case at Heathrow when he was arrested for those tweets. Now, it is a victory because he has been cleared of harassment, and that was in relation to things he'd said online, things that he'd said to Sophia at the time, but he has been done for criminal damage because Sophia Brooks at the Battle of Ideas last year pursued Graham, following him around, putting his camera right into Graham's face, and Graham said in the trial that he was just angry and the phone away, and that's why Sophia went after Graham for criminal damage. But the Free Speech Union is funding Graham's appeal for that conviction because we believe that it sets a dangerous precedent for trans activists to play heckler's veto to try and shut down lawful debate. And you may remember the case that Susan Smith from Women Scotland had a similar incident happen up at Holyrood when a trans activist came with music blaringly loud to try and drown out the voices of women, and he accused Susan of criminal damage to his umbrella. Now, of course, Police Scotland have dropped those charges after the FSU intervened. Now, that's very similar, and arguably similar to Hammock Hoskins' case as well, where because someone retaliated, and so allowing these cases to pursue with, for example, Graham being convicted of criminal damage gives the precedent that trans activists basically can wind up people who are wanting to critique trans ideology and then eventually getting them convicted by going to the police and saying that they were the one harassing me, even though very plausibly I think it was Sophia Brooks who was harassing Graham. This is not the first time that he's been targeted, which is one of the reasons why he's moved to the US, because he simply cannot get away from the persecution that he's faced at the hands of trans activists, because he was one of the first people to start speaking up about this in sort of 2018 time, and he had his colleagues in the entertainment industry completely desert him, who have criticised him and tried to distance themselves from him. He can't get any work here anymore, and when he did return to come to this trial, he was arrested by 5 armed police officers at Heathrow for other tweets. So understandably, he's moved away to where free speech is far better protected in the US.
Your country went to war to preserve human rights in another country you had nothing to do with, but human rights are evaporating in your own country, and it's cool because you have soccer games with foreigners at them and good burrata. And I'm just saying maybe something about the heroic British spirit has been diminished with time. That's all I'm saying.
But there is a very lovely, quaint notion being built up in the United States, driven by people like Tommy Robinson here.
Who's Tommy Robinson?
You know Tommy Robinson.
He seems like a fraud to me.
Well, he's not even Tommy Robinson. His name's Stephen Yaxley. It's not even his real name. He's also convicted of multiple crimes. Thuggery, fraud.
I don't even know anything about him, but he doesn't seem like he's that into Britain.
We would call him a little shit stirrer, right? However,
but the real people here, the actual Britons.
But this idea that he's driven, that we're on the verge of some sort of civil war here. Do you feel that when you walk around?
No, because that's my point. You're so passive.
But not passive.
They take your human rights away, and you're like, oh, defending Ukraine is so important. We're so proud to have defended Poland's territorial integrity 80 years ago. It's like, great, I'm so glad.
I'm very proud of that.
Apparently. But it's all a kind of displacement where you're taking your own frustrations with yourselves and your own cowardice and sort of living in this Walter Mitty world. We're like, no, actually, we're brave. We're going to defend Ukraine. It's like, what about defend yourselves against the monsters
What's wrong with defending Ukraine?
It's like 8th on the list. Defend yourself. Defend your human rights. They can't put you in jail for saying naughty words.
Sure.
Period.
I agree.
So march on the Capitol. Get these people out. Scare them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
that's the issue they have in our country. You got to use raping our kids. This is our country. How about becoming your country if you had your kids?
Let's walk. To avoid an escalation of the confrontation, I attempted to move Zahin away.
Are you okay?
Yeah. Because I'm used.
Here in Nuneaton, tensions around immigration are running high.
You're going on camera. I just come up to him to say thank you for today, put my hand out to shake his hand, and what did you say? I'm not shaking your hand. Why?
I'm completely impartial. I'm not showing any
Well, you can't shake hands with someone that's saying thank you. I tell you what, mate, I know that all the police aren't the same, but that is disgraceful. I can't believe that. I cannot believe I went to shake his hand to say thank you for today, and he wouldn't shake my hand. Do you want to reconsider? Because I'm going to post this. I'm thanking you for what you've done today. And you won't shake my hand.
Sir, I'm here to do a job.
You won't
Not to shake hands, that's all.
You won't shake my hand.
That's all. Do a job.
Shame on you. Shame on you. I'm f***ing appalled. I'm f***ing appalled. Look at that man. Wouldn't shake my hand. I come over with an open hand and an open heart. Wow. Shame on you. Animal.
If you come and you claim asylum, until you're granted it, you can't work. And you get, if you're put up in a hotel or a hostel or whatever, if you get meals, you get £10 a week cash to buy clothes, toothpaste, whatever. If you don't get meals and you're living somewhere, you get 50, I think it's 49 quid a week. It has been created, all these terrible, terrible myths where Ryland Clark regurgitated, spouted most of them about free iPads. Also, Susanna regurgitated a load of myths and lies. And let's not ignore that, because...
What were the myths and lies?
You get the free iPads and all, like an El Dorado welcome. It's gone mainstream. Myths and lies have gone mainstream,
okay,
and we got to challenge them.
So what?
And what's happening at the moment is we've gone back all the way to the worst aspects of the 1970s, where racism is becoming mainstream, and myths and lies are being peddled.
The one thing I don't like about it, and it's happened more and more, is explaining why it's okay. People, this faux outrage, and we're talking 1%. They go, "Oh, why do you think you can joke about that?" You know what? I know why I think I joke about it? Because you can fucking joke about anything. I want to go to them, why have you picked on that one? Because it's your thing. It's your, having to explain it. That's it. So why it's okay. Why it's not this or not that. Most people just want to be, they want to get in your face. They want to make your day as bad as theirs. And, I'm pretty good. I take it on Facebook. I explain to them, particularly if it's a journalist, and saying why, which surprises me when a journalist says, "Oh, do you think people are going to be offended by that?" Yes, they're going to be offended about fucking everything. They'd be offended if I didn't put it in. Someone would go, "Why didn't you put that thing in?" So you mustn't worry about it. So that's the worst thing. Having to pander to fucking 1%. And I don't have to, actually. Maybe I like it. Maybe I like telling them they're fucking stupid. But everything else is great. And even that bit's alright, because it makes you formulate an idea. So I've got to be right, I can't lie. So I've got to be totally behind everything I do and work it and make it bulletproof. What you can't do is make things bulletproof for 10 years' time. We don't know what's going to be offensive in 10 years' time. And that's why you shouldn't go back. People finding things that are 20 years old. This is offensive. It's gone. Don't worry about it. There's nothing we can do about it. It's done. What do you want to do? Put him in detention. He's dead. Fuck's sake. Oh, right.
Yeah, should have been shot.
Oh, is this a racism thing?
Should. Bloody Asian.
Oh, bloody Asian. Right,
Yeah,
okay.
Why are people not committing crime? There's more Asians who commit crimes than white people. White people have got a lot more sense than you people.
Oh, do they?
Hold on. Why? Because a lot of you are stupid.
What? How? Why?
Wow.
Why are white people better? Why is that?
White people are better than you.
Why?
Because they're more intelligent.
Oh, wow.
On what basis?
You stupid idiot. Yeah.
I might be stupid. It's relative, right? But if you can explain to me why white people are more intelligent, that would be helpful. So I can better understand.
You shouldn't be in this country.
All right.
You
Where should we
shouldn't.
be?
You should have stopped where you were born.
Yes, I was born here.
No, you wasn't.
I was born literally in Slough,
No.
Berkshire. I was born in
No.
Berkshire.
No.
Yes.
I was literally born in Berkshire.
You should go back to India, where you come from.
Oh,
Not
we're
from India.
Should.
You're so ignorant.
You shouldn't be allowed.
Can we not entertain this, because this is nonsense? I don't want to see your face. I don't want to speak to you ever again. And to be honest, I'm going to report you for racism. I'm going to report you for racism.
Good.
Yeah, I will. I will send this to the police and I will report you for racism. Absolutely, but I won't be disgustingly racist.
So would you
Yeah.
say you are a racist man?
Yes.
And is that against all brown people or just specific religion?
No, not religion.
Or just anybody that's not white?
Yes.
So Muslim, Sikh,
Wow.
Hindu, anybody?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I just don't like you.
You don't like brown people in general because we have no sense. Right?
Doesn't matter.
No, but you said that we have no sense.
I
That's the
don't
reason.
like brown people.
Yeah, because we have no sense. Is that right?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, so you like brown people? There's no reason. Because
I've
I'm
got
suggesting,
no reason.
I'm saying to you that you just said that we don't have sense. That's the basis on which you don't like us.
When your parents were born or your grandparents were born, you should live there.
Right. Okay. Why?
Because we don't want you over here.
Who's we?
White people.
Is that all of the white people?
A lot of the white people.
How many? Percentage basis?
Millions.
Right. So
Millions.
Leicester being like having such a substantial minority community, I guarantee you the majority of people in Leicester probably won't have the same worldview as you do. So on that basis, your argument...
We should go... We could clear 100 million of you out of the country altogether.
What would you do with it? Send us out? Would you send us out? Where would you send us? Because we don't have visas or passports to go back to.
Yeah, we're
these
British,
countries
mate.
you're talking about. We're British, English. I'm English. I don't have a passport for India or Pakistan or Sweden or wherever.
Life will be back to normal, won't it? Soon, hopefully. You'll all be doing other things. I might do the odd one. There might be something else for you to watch. But it is, and it's not over yet. We've still got a few more. Thank you very much. Tell me about it.
It was during an interview with Zaheen, a local businessman, that things took a turn.
And how old are you?
32.
32.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah, no, we should. Can you not see we talking?
No, because we're going on about your religion and Christians, the true life, the way and the truth, mate. Jesus is the way, the truth and the life.
Yeah.
That's the issue we have using in our country. You got to use raping our kids. This is our country. How about becoming your country and do that in your kids? Never going to happen.
Yeah,
Never going to happen, mate. We won't do that. When we become your country, do that to your kids. We're going to head beheading.
You know,
these are our children. No, mate.
What are you teaching them kids? You're mouthing
All right, no.
Go on, say something about my kids. Go on.
The camera's rolling.
I don't care.
Just relax.
They're my kids.
Just relax.
My kids in my country.
Let's walk.
To avoid an escalation of the confrontation, I attempted to move Zaheen away.
Are you okay?
Yeah. Because I'm used to this conflict.
No, but that's no one should be used to that.
But moments later, he turned around, concerned for his twin sister, who at this point is surrounded by the group.
So why are you making me? Why are you acting like I'm the problem?
I attempted to speak to them, giving them an opportunity to air their views, but tensions were high and a calm conversation seemed unlikely.
You're just racist. Just carry on. You are racist. You have to face.
So we walked away. A woman who worked at the local bookshop had heard the commotion and came to speak to us.
Have you ever seen anything like that?
No. Well, there have been protests. And of course, Warwickshire County Council's gone to reform. So I think it's given certain people a licence to be aggressive and to be racist.
Wow, to hear that actually is saddening. And I think what I've just heard is not the case at all.
So why are asylum seekers here in Nuneaton living in residential properties, and how did we get to this point?
A few years ago, asylum seekers in Nuneaton were few and far between, in single digits. But by June of this year, that number had surged to 247, none of them in hotels. Instead, they're living in dispersal accommodation, in the community, side by side with locals. That works out to 19 asylum seekers per 10,000 people, placing Nuneaton 87th in terms of concentration. The growing number of asylum seekers is now at the heart of political debate, and the conversation has largely been steered by the Reform Party, but even they haven't decided on a solution.
Women and children, everybody on arrival will be detained. Deportation of illegal immigrants. We were not even discussing women and children at this stage. If a single woman, etc., comes to Britain, they will be detained and deported.
The current government has also introduced fresh policies, amongst them plans to make it easier to remove foreign-born criminals who commit crimes in this country.
The last couple of weeks and the bit before, I put on £3. I didn't all the way through, so I'm going into Christmas fat. So I'm going to be a fat little fucker. Anyway, it started well, didn't it?
You appear to have gone into some form of grief about the downfall of this ruthless, vile dictator. Why?
Well, when you say I spent time with Bashar al-Assad, you might have added that I spent time with him in Buckingham Palace when he was a guest of Her Majesty the Queen, literally living in the spare room at Buckingham Palace. The night before, going down the Mall in an open top coach with Her Majesty on a royal trot around central London. You might have mentioned that Tony Blair suggested a knighthood for Bashar al-Assad. I've met him once, twice in my life, and the second time not on my own. So grief, no, my grief is for Syria. My grief is for the Syrian people, who are now ruled by ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And if you were being honest with yourself, knowing what you do about ISIS and Al-Qaeda, you'd be grieving with me.
We each live our lives. The goal of each individual, I suppose, is to be as happy as you can be without hurting anyone else, without infringing on other people's rights. There's probably a list of things that make each person happy. Mine is dogs, wine, this, talking absolute shit for a living, creating. What else? All the usual things, friends and family and all that. Work, learning. People always forget that. I always forget it, but it's great just finding stuff out. So anyway, everyone has a list of things that makes them happy, and you just got to do that all your life, and then die, and probably leave the world in as good a state as you found it if you can. That's just common courtesy, isn't it? If you borrowed someone's caravan for the weekend and they threw up everywhere, pissed on the carpet, shat the bed, you'd clean up, wouldn't you? Saturday morning. Just common courtesy. Little tip there.
Well, I certainly think there are a lot of concerns, legitimate concerns, about the leader of the rebels, who clearly was running part of Al-Qaeda in Syria. That's unquestionable. He says he's a changed person. He's distanced himself from, as he puts it, the extremists. I think we have to wait and see how this plays out and see if he is true to his word. Certainly the Americans seem to be buying into that at the moment, are supporting him, as are many other countries. In this country, for example, in the UK, I've seen that the government is saying we may have to unprescribe the group that he represents as a terror group in light of what's happened. So there's a lot going on here, and clearly there are a lot of groups in Syria, and there's a lot of people who are claiming they have gone from extreme fundamentalism to more moderate positions. Let's wait and see. It has been known to happen. I would say to you, though, I'm not talking really about what happened with Assad when he first came to power, because he was all the things that you rightly articulated. I just find it odd that you would view his dismissal now as a bad thing for Syrians. And we made a quick checklist here. This is a guy, I remember I was at CNN at the time with the 2011 Arab Spring. He crushed the peaceful resistance. It led to a devastating civil war, at least 300,000, maybe 500,000 deaths. More than 14 million Syrians had to flee their homes. He fired rockets filled with sarin gas on Ghouta, killing nearly 1,500, mostly women and children. Continued to use chlorine and sarin on his own people between 2014 to 2018. Russian and Syrian government airstrikes killed more than 100,000 Syrians since 2011. Thousands tortured and left to rot in prisons. The prisons are currently being emptied out. People have been kept there, right, in underground, horrific conditions for sometimes decades under this guy. And so whatever the argument, which is a legitimate one, as I say, about what may come next, and we've seen with Libya and with Iraq and even with Iran, sometimes be careful what you wish for, and I'm absolutely cognizant of that. And I'm not getting too excited until I see how this plays out in terms of the leadership. But you cannot defend Assad's record of how he has treated his own people, given the scale of death, destruction, wrongful imprisonment, torture, and so on. Can you?
Well, that's the kind of propaganda porn that you've just adumbrated, that we were treated to about Saddam Hussein to justify invading and occupying Iraq. Both you and me, to our eternal credit, saw through that because we refused to abstract. Even if 1/5 of what you just said there is the case, that is not a justification for making every matter worse. Now, it's true that Paul had a dramatic conversion on the road to Damascus, but we know al-Golani. He wasn't just the number 2 to Zarqawi in Iraq. He was the Al-Qaeda number 2 in Iraq, killing British soldiers, by the way, killing American soldiers, by the way. And then he went to Syria and became the number 2 to al-Baghdadi, the founder of ISIS in Syria. So that would knock Paul's conversion on the road to Damascus into a cocked hat. Now, like you, I'm waiting for development. Like you, I'm ready to treat this on its merits. If the Christian priests are not massacred, if the nuns are not kidnapped, if the religious minorities and Kurdish minorities and Druze minorities are not hunted down, like Golani did just 7 years ago, well, nobody will be happier than me. But you used the words, be careful what you wish for. In the Umayyad mosque in Damascus yesterday, his supporters were chanting that they're on their way to Jerusalem next. And after Jerusalem, they're on their way to Mecca next. Now, I could live with that, Piers. I'm not sure that you could.
Listen, I'm not trying to make a defense of any of it at the moment. I think it's a very turbulent situation. As you know, I've got relatives, including my brother, who've been in the military, and you can make a very good argument that when you depose dictators, it often leads to a worse situation. I mean, I think that's inarguable. And I'm not saying for a moment that I have absolute confidence that won't happen here, but I certainly wouldn't let that stray into a defensive of Assad, who I think is indisputably proven himself to be an evil dictator.
Well, you can't, can you? I mean, you can't. I mean, it's so subjective, isn't it? And today there's no such thing as mental. Everyone's got an excuse. Everything's you know what I mean? It used to be he's mental, but now, no, he's not. So, I think it would be them to prove I was mental. What would I do? Just have a sort of dignified conversation. I go, well, sorry about the inconvenience, there's been a misunderstanding. I'd do the test, right? And I go, yeah. And I go, well, yeah, you're saying. And then as they would leave, I go, they say, well, listen, I'll put in the recommendation, you'll leave. I go, as they're leaving, I go, can I eat your feet? And they go, oh, fucking hell. Oh.
Let me ask you, there's a lot going on in the world right now, not least in the Middle East. you've seen Israel clearly have military success now, both against Hamas and Hezbollah, which seems to have given them a resurgent popularity. Netanyahu was very unpopular, is now much more popular because the people support what he's been doing with what they perceive to be terrorism. Iran, I would argue, is indisputably been weakened, not just by that, by also what's happened with al-Assad. You could argue that Russia has also been weakened because they basically pulled out of Syria completely. They've got a lot of troops there, but they're trying to get out of there completely. What do you make of the whole situation in totality? Donald Trump's coming in. He's made it clear he wants to end the war in Ukraine. He wants to try and end the wars in the Middle East. But where are we going to be left out of all this in a few months, do you think?
Well, unfortunately, for the purposes of show business, I agreed with all of that you just said. The truth is that the big winners in this are Erdogan, the new Ottoman emperor, whose flag is flying on the citadel in Aleppo for the first time since Lawrence of Arabia and the Syrian Arab national movement drove the Ottomans out in the First World War, and Netanyahu, who looked dead and buried only 15 months ago.
Yeah.
He looked like he was headed for the pokey, and now he's the cock of the walk. And frankly, the Arabs are lying prone on the floor, and only his tender mercies are anything or everything that stands in the way of him doing to them as he pleases. And he's now invading Syria. He's expanding the Israeli so-called buffer zone, occupation zone on Syrian territory. He's cleaned half of the Gaza Strip entirely of its Palestinian population, the north of Gaza. He could right now, tonight, open the gates of Rafah and drive the remaining Palestinians into the desert in Egypt, and nobody, literally nobody, is going to stop him.
And he's got a president coming in who is completely on his side.
Well, we'll see about that. Depends which Donald Trump you meet. If it's the Donald Trump that was campaigning in Michigan on the eve of poll before his greatest comeback since George Foreman's rumble in the jungle, that Donald Trump wants to end the wars. That Donald Trump might be the one, counterintuitively, I'll grant you, who forces Netanyahu to have some mercy and to try and bring about an end to this suppurating conflict that has poisoned world affairs for all, basically all of my
I think Trump, I actually agree with you.
First,
I agree with you. I think Trump, I spoke to him last week and it came up about Middle East and Ukraine and Russia. He is instinctively, he's anti-war. Always has been. Apart from anything else, as a business guy, he just thinks war is bad for business. It costs an awful lot of money. It puts enormous strain on the economy. And what do you gain? I mean, his argument, I think, would be, actually, if you look at America's wars and interventions over the last 50 years, where could you see a clear victory which justified all the money and all the bloodshed and everything else? And I would agree with him. So I do think he can be surprising. I also think there's a will to get peace now, certainly with the Israel-Hamas war, and I think also with Ukraine-Russia. You can see the rhetoric from Zelensky that he is clearly now ready to do some kind of deal because they're both losing too many people. I mean, Russia's losing 2,000 soldiers a day. That's why they've got the North Koreans coming in.
If you were immortal for one day, what would you do? Right, so, okay, I know what you mean. So I can't die, whatever I do that day, like Groundhog Day. I can do what I want, and I can't. But then, at midnight, I'm mortal again. I've got to be careful. Well, I suppose I would do dangerous things. Would I do things? Would I like go into war zones and sort people out because they couldn't kill me? Or would I just fuck about? Just like jump off buildings to get to a notorious higher. Hold on though. right, I'm immortal, but I've seen these things like the monkey's paw and 3 wishes go wrong when there's a twist in the tale. So I jump off a building for a laugh and I crunch and I'm not dead, but I'm smashed to pieces and in agony. And I'm going, "Ugh." And then you go, yeah, I didn't say you. "Ugh." So I'm absolutely fucked. And then I just die of my injuries the next day. You gotta be careful with these questions. What would I do? I don't know. What would I do? Maybe I would do things that other people couldn't do. But what's that though? And you only got one day. What's the point? Running around bouncing off cars for a laugh. Good question though, isn't it? Some people have really thought that out. Like, I know what I'd do. Wade into poachers. Just going like, they wouldn't know I'd hit him, would they?